Remember that they're changing my voice. So they're looking at us like they're confused about where San Francisco and San Jose are. Okay. And, you know, then all of a sudden, you know, they're starting to get mad or something, because I think that, you know, quite often gang members and bullies in general, they'll kind of get mad if they think like they're getting played out. It reminds me of people like trying to, you know, when I was younger, when I got bad grades or something, or did a bad report, people like, oh, trying to play me out like an idiot. So it creates this kind of resentment for that kind of white culture and anything like it, you know. So they're like, fucking, what am I, a dumbass kind of thing? Like, well, I guess I'm dumb if I don't know that. You know, they're kind of responding like that without saying it, right? That the tension's increasing. And then, you know, they're like, fucking don't lie to us, right? And I'm like, no, really, we're from a boarding school. That's why we kind of seem different, right? And then boom, you know, I think the different word, I said something like that, that kind of triggered something in them that made them say, no. And then the guy wearing red, right? You can't make this up, right? That's part of why it seems like a psyop. It's like they were trying to get me to make peace with the Bloods or something. He was the guy who said, you know, no, he's from San Francisco. He's like, he's from San Francisco, you're from San Jose, right? He's like, do I have this right? He's like, yeah. He's like, they don't know nothing about this. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And that guy kind of changed the tempo. And now I forgot to bring this up. You know, at first when they approached, they said, you got a dollar. I said, oh man, they're gonna rob us. They want to pull out your wallets, they can beat us up and take it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, man, you know, so we're kind of backpedaling. And then they're kind of like, why are you walking away from us? Boom. Then some car alarm goes off, right? And they start running, right? They started running. They took off because of the car alarm at the liquor store right there. They run around the block hella fast, right? They run around the back alleyway hella fast. And we're like backpedaling. We're walking away and we're like, okay, you know, we're starting to walk away. Boom, they pop up on us again. And they say, that's fucked up that you try to take off on us like that, right? So they're working the mouthpiece and they're working the angles. And I forget how it ends. I think the car alarm might have went off again. I think something occurred. When all was said and done, you know, we get away from that, right? You know, we could have gotten beat down, shot, you name it. You know, there's no telling, right? LA's a dangerous place. Just because you don't bang and you're not, you know, they might say, hey, you know what? Let's just do it for good measure, right? Let's just jump in for good measure. Like, you know, it's like it was going toward that way initially. They came out, and when they came out the first time, I forgot to bring this up too, there was this big, fat, white-skinned female. I don't know what she was. Maybe she was Mexican. Maybe she's probably white. And she's like, oh, shit, they're starting shit. I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, man, bitch, shut the fuck up. Okay, because you're pumping them up. They're like, okay, I'm about to put it down. And I'm like, man, that bitch is not my friend. Is not anyone's friend. Fuck that bitch. You know what I'm saying? Again, you know, when I think about how I was when I was younger, I tend to talk a little bit differently, and part of it is just what happens. Part of it is, you know, the psychological operation against me. Okay, so there's that, right? So okay. You know, eventually when I go to that school, there's a bunch of dickheads and fucking, you know, wrestling them here and there, you know, bunch of punks, okay? And there's a bunch of racist punks, and there's these two racist white kids. I mean, there's so many events, right? I'm just trying to touch on some of them, and we'll keep it pushing, right? There's these two white kids, and they're behind me in the math class, right? And the teacher's like this kind of passive teacher, and they're throwing things at me. I'm like, man, stop that, da-da-da. And they're trying to mock me. Oh, stop that, trying to mock me, you know, acting like bitches. They're older kids, like, you know, and one of them's like a junior, and one's like a sophomore. I think I'm a freshman at the time or something like that, you know. So they're in classes above me, and in high school, you know, if they're older than you, quite often they're significantly bigger than you, right? There's a difference between a freshman and a sophomore and a freshman and a junior, right? If you really think back to it, you know, you feel like a little tiny guy compared to them, but the difference wasn't that big, okay? And in some cases, okay? And so the teacher basically doesn't do anything, and then come later to find out, I'd go to her house, right? Because they live on the campus, some of them, and I go there for some, I guess I get told that I have to show up for tutoring there, or maybe I just decided, hey, I'm going to try to make a great push to kind of get good grades, right? So I show up there, and again, you know, it threw me way off. Like, I was naturally good at math. For years and years, I was thrown off in terms of school because of the heartbreak, because of the psyop. So I show up there, and I hear like noise in the back room and shit, and it was, you know, screaming, it's like, stop kind of thing. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. And then they go, you're probably not going to believe me. I don't know anything about it, right? And then later on, I don't think it happened at that time. I think they did that to fuck with my head. Later on, they were saying, someone said that, that these guys had some kind of sexual assault incident on the teacher, right? At least one of these guys. And, that they settled it, right? So people are getting kicked out of school for smoking weed and shit like that. But fucking they settled that incident, and they decided to keep it out of the mainstream view, and they settled it amongst themselves. I'm like, what the fuck? Right? You know what I'm saying? And for whatever reason, sexual assault was a big thing. They put people in my life that would tell stories. I'm sure some of them were false about rape to piss me off. And there was a lot of those incidences that had occurred. Okay, this one female looked nearly identical as this other female when I was in Santa Cruz, where the police, the person worked at the jail there, she said that they made her do things and so on and so forth, and that she's scared, and that once you have that job, you have to do what they say, and there's things like this where there's all kinds of overt sexual references and subtle, right? There was the nurse at the hospital. I think I told you about that in the other video, where I'm being shunned by all these females, including the nurses at the hospital, right? And my dad's a brain surgeon. Think about, oh wow, he's hot, and his dad's a brain surgeon. He's cool, and he's fun to be with, not some lame date or something. But it wasn't like that at all. Okay, they didn't give the first fuck about any of that. They were just, people are just kind of clannish, right? They kind of just date their own, and even people who kind of don't date their own, they date the white man. They date the white man and their own, and then whitewashed token minor or something to this effect, right? It's like that, unless they're from like a gang neighborhood or something. That tends to be the general rule of thumb. I'm sure you all know them, right? And they're, being different, that didn't help me. I'm mulatto, right? I'm part Nigerian. My dad comes from Nigeria, and I'm part white. Okay, and I lived first in Almaden, then we moved to Saratoga, right? And that big house I was telling you about the other video, and then we moved to unincorporated fucking Morgan Hill, not just Morgan Hill. Okay, imagine saying, hey guys, I'm from Morgan Hill, right? It sucks. Now there's some gangs here, and they might feel some kind of way about it, but most of them, when I met them, they weren't thrilled to be from Morgan Hill, but they were proud to be from whatever grouping, thug grouping that they're from. Okay. But when you live in fucking unincorporated Morgan Hill, it's like a corporation versus unincorporated. It's like, you're outside the loop. I'm different and outside the loop. And that's where the open-air prison comes in, right? It's like living in Palestine in certain ways when in regards to being cut off from the world. There was no bus stops, okay? There's no fucking street lights. We had to, buy our own street lights and put them there kind of thing, okay? It's boondocks. The cuts. It's even called the cuts, But it also made it so I was more enhanced of a spiritual person. While people are distracted by city life, I'm more praying to God. I'm more doing martial arts in nature. I'm really growing. I'm becoming a cowboy or farmer. I'm becoming a spiritual martial artist and refining my basketball skills because they built me a basketball court at the property, which would eventually become some sort of a ranch. And we had, we believe it or not, we had goats at one point. We had pigs. Okay, I'm talking about a full-fledged fucking ranch to kind of make my life harder, because my dad used to say things like, oh, women love horses, and to some degree they do. White women love white guys with horses. Black females from the South, in the South somewhere, love some black guy with a horse, some of these chicks, right? Okay. But the types of women that date black guys and mulattoes in Santa Clara County don't give the first fuck about a horse. Generally speaking, 999 times out of 1,000, they don't care at all. And one time they might care a little bit kind of thing. And every once in a while, 1 in a million or so to speak, they care a lot. They didn't give a fuck about it, folks. They didn't give a motherfuck. They didn't give a damn. They said, if you don't give a damn, we don't give a fuck. And you fucking don't give a damn. And we don't give a motherfuck. Okay? And this is one of the disagreements I have with my parents, right? They said, you're going to find somebody at the library. I'm sure I'll find some at the library when you can't even fucking talk to people at the library. And if you're the black guy talking to the white girl or some nice Asian girl or something like this, they're not hearing you. They're like, man, what the fuck this black guy talking to me for? Kind of thing. Well, what the fuck? Like, if you want to talk, you want to meet somebody, go to the club, plow. You may as well say that, just like that. So people don't understand. They don't understand me, even if I wasn't Christ, even if I wasn't the Christos, that is the anointed one, the idea that Christ in the story is superimposed on. And the idea of Christ coming back is me here now. And it goes back to the top martial arts. It goes back to Psalm 19, Psalm 18, Psalm 19, Psalm 24, Psalm 89. Check those ones out and you'll really have an idea. And it's also really check out Proverbs 34 and Exodus 15:3, and you'll see that I'm right.